of collecting, organizing, analyzing, interpreting, and presenting data into useful information. It to conclude and make discussion requires responsible mathematical and logical reasoning. Next, business statistics also refer to the focus on data analysis from basic statistics for labor by X in the states of server in 1982 to 2090. The, this statistic data is built through five aspects as data agreement, position, deviation, central tendency, and graph method. To analyze business statistic data from labor force following the age group of the states of Perak in 1982 until 2090. Next, the data agreement is data that can be described using tables and graphs. In editations, there are three types of tables that can be used to explain the data that's labor force of the X group in the states of Perak in 1982 and in 2019. For the graphical method, we use two types of graphics such as histogram and OGIF. Next, the step of center tendency. This is because the method of the center tendency is a single value that treats to describe a set of data by identifying the positive of the center in the data set. Conclusions. In conclusion, we use several aspects. The statistical data is built through five aspects such as a data agreement, positions, division, center tendency, and graph method. To analyze business statistic data from labor force according to the age group of the states of Perak in 1982 until 2090. Next, as a first step to organize the data is data that can be described using tables and graphs. For the graphical method, we use two types of graph such as a histogram and a GIF. We use the central tendency method to calculate the mode mean and median, where the mode is expenses as 47.66, mean 92.66, and median 92.98. We use this text 137, Wagrancy 1720.80, and standard variations 41.48. The quartile mode is used to calculate the range between quartiles 87.90 for position matches. The shape of the descriptor can be divided into two types such as a symmetrical and asymmetrical. A line of asymmetry will occur when a vertical line can be drawn through the center of this vertical graph, with the graph can show a picture of a building. The asymmetrical occurs when the equilibrium graph is created to incline to the left or incline to the right.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurul Ain. My metric number is H19A0936. I want to talk about my part in this assignment. It is about data arrangement. Data arrangement means data can be described by using a table and graph. There are three types of table can be used to describe data. First is frequency distribution. Second, relative frequency distribution. Third, cumulative frequency distribution. The first about frequency descriptions. Frequency descriptions means a table that show class or interval of data entries in each class. The frequency of class is the number of data entries in the class. There is five steps in frequency descriptions. Okay, step 1. Decide on the number of class. There were 36 of 8 group, so n equal 36. To determine the number of class, k is the to the k rules, such as that to k greater than n. So we need the recommended number of class k equals 6. It is because 2 power of 6 equals 64, which is greater than n equals 36. Step 2, determine the class interval of width. To find the class width is maximum entry minus minimum entry divided by number of class. So 169.0 minus 34.7 divide by 6 equal 22.38, round up to 23. Step 3, set the individual class limit. To set the individual class limit, we need find the lower limit previous class first. It is 34.7 add with class with 23. So the upper of first class is 56.7. The upper limits of the other class are 56.7 plus 23 equal 79.7. 79.7 plus 23 equal 102.7, and so on. Step 4, make a tally mark for each data entry in the appropriate class. Step 5, the number of the tally mark for a class is the frequency for that class. So we get the frequency as a table 1. Okay, the second is relative frequency description. The relative frequency is the proportion or percentage of the data that fall in that class. To find the relative frequency of a class, divide the frequency by the sample size n. Okay, so we get the relative frequency description as a table 2. Okay, the third about cumulative frequency description. The cumulative frequency of a class is the sum of the frequency for that class and all previous class. The cumulative frequency of the last class is equal to the sample size n. So we get the cumulative frequency as a table 3. Okay, next about graph method. In this assignment, we choose two graph. First, graph histogram. Histogram is a bar graph that represents the frequency distribution of a data set. First, the horizontal scala is quantitative and measure the data value, either class midpoint or class boundaries. Second, the vertical scala measure the frequencies of the class. And third, consecutive bar must touch. Bar must begin and end at class boundaries instead of class limit. So this table show the data to draw graph histogram. Okay, this is graph histogram. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and good evening. My name is Abdullah Husamsul. I would like to present the part of object and central tendency. So the object they must have three elements such as upper class boundaries frequency, cumulative frequency. So this is the diagram. So the object graph, the line is vertical. So second is measure tendency. Measure tendency as three such as mean, median, and mode. To find the mean for the labor force by age group for 15 to 24 in Perak, 1982 to 2019 is as the number of labor, frequency, midpoint x and fx. To find the midpoint, so the midpoint multiply by the frequency, so they will get the fx. So the fx is 6,371.4. So the total is 6671.4 divided by 72. They get 92.66, which means is 92650 level force. For the median, they must have the cumulative frequency to find the median. So the median class for the frequency is 80, 80.7 and 102.7. So 80.2 plus 72 divided by 2 minus 31 divided by 9 and multiply by 23, they will get the 92.98, which is 92.980 level force for Perak on age 15.24. So lastly is the mod. Mod is they must have the only two number of levels and frequency. So the highest frequency for the mod is 34.7 and 56.7 because the frequency is 24. So 34.2 plus 24 divided by 24 plus 70 multiply by 3, they will get 47.66, which is 47660 level force after we convert to the thousand. So this is my explanation. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Nur Hafizan bin Muhammad. My matric number H19B0315. Continue to my part. I'm gonna talk about the measure of variation. Now, what is measure of variation? The measure of variation is a measure of central tendency is some parameter attempt to describe the amount of variation between random variables. Usually, we use three types of parameters such as range, variation, and standard deviation to calculate the amount of variation between the random variables. The first one is range. The range of data is used to measure the difference between the maximum and minimum data entries in the set. The formula to measure range is range equal to maximum data entry minus minimum data entry. As you can see in the solution, the maximum data entry is 1.1.7 minus the minimum data entry 34.7 and equal to 137. Therefore, the range for labor force between age 15 to 24 in Perak is about 137. Next, we move to variance. The formula to measure variance is as follows. Before we go to the solution, we need to find the total of frequency, fx and fx square. So the total of frequency is 72, fx is 6671.4 and fx square is 740,293.68. Then we can calculate the variation, and this is the solution, and the last answer we will get 1720.18. Finally is standard deviation. As you can see, the formula to measure standard deviation is S equal to square root variation or S square. Then the solution is S equal to square root 1720.18, and we will get the answer that is 41.48. Therefore, the sample variance for labor force between age 15 to 24 in Perak is about 1720.18, and the sample standard deviation for the labor force between age 15 to 24 in Perak is about 41.48. That is all from me. Next, we will continue. with my friend on measure of position.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is Hani Sabrina binti Zalani. I will to continue the presentation about the measure of a position. Statistics often talk about the position of a value relative to other value in a set of a data. As with other type of measure, there is a more wide approach the define or such a measure to determine the measurement of the position. The data must be a short from the lowest and to highest. The most common measure of the position are quartile, decile, and a percentile. 8. Quartile. Divide the data set into the four equal parts. B. Decile. Divide the data set into 10 equal parts. C. Percentile. Divide the data set into 100 equal parts. So we focus the quartile. A quartile is a 3-point that divide a data set into 4 equal groups, and they are denoted by Q1, Q2, and Q3. First quartile, Q1, is a lower quartile. It a value in the data set the 25% of the below Q1 and 70% of the value fall above Q1. The second quartile, Q2, is a medium value in the data set that 50% of the value fall below and above Q2. The third quartile, Q3, is a upper quartile. A value in the data set the 70% of the value for below Q3 and 25% of the fall above Q3. The difference between the lower and upper quartile is calling the inter interquartile range. So this is the table of labor post by age a group from the 50 to 24 in Perak 1982 to 2029. How to calculate a Q1? First step one is find the location of a Q1. Q1 equal n divide 4 equal 72 divide 4 equal 18. So the class interval is 34.7 to 56.7. Okay, we continue the step 2. Find the value of a Q1. You must use the formula this. Q equal L plus bracket N divide 4 minus F divide F and multiply and C. So 57.2 plus bracket 18 minus 24 divide 7 and multiply and 23, you can get the answer 37.48. Okay, how to calculate a Q3? Step 1, find the location of a Q3. So the formula is Q3 equal 3 and divide 4 equal 3 bracket 72 divide 4. You can get the 54 and the class interval is 100 103.7 to 125.7. Okay, step 2. Find the value of the Q3. Same the Q1. Use the this formula. So Q3 103.2 plus bracket 54 minus 40 divide 50 and multiply with 23. You can get the answer 124.67. So how to calculate intercooler range? Use this formula Q3 minus Q1 equal 124.67 minus 37.48. You can get the answer 87.19. So the intercooler range for the number of labor pros in the Perak 50 to 24 as the 87.19, which is the uh, 87,160 level after we convert. That's all for me. Thank you.